Hello, my name is Sudeep Singh, and today I will be doing my presentation on the 2001 Gujarat earthquake. So, what, when, and where? So, this earthquake in particular occurred on the Republic Day of India, where they celebrate the Constitution of India coming into effect. This particular earthquake occurred on January 26, 2001 at 8:46 a.m. Indian Standard Time. This was a very big earthquake as it had a 7.7 magnitude that occurred in Gujarat, which is the fifth largest state by area. The epicenter was in Bhuj, which is in the Kutch district in Gujarat. So this earthquake was very devastating as it lasted over 2 minutes and almost everything was destroyed in Bhuj, from roads to landlines. So all roads and all communication to Bhuj was cut due to the earthquake, which made it very hard for people to support people that were damaged by this earthquake. So why I chose this topic? I chose this topic because of my background. I am from India and I have heard my parents talk about this earthquake. So it made me want to research it a bit more and learn more about it. Also, on top of that, I was really shocked at how long the earthquake lasted and how many casualties there were involved in this earthquake. So it just made me a lot more interested and wanted me to learn a little bit more about it. This earthquake, like I said, was devastating. It destroyed villages and even whole districts in India. 20,000 people died, 150,000 people were severely injured, and over 600,000 people became homeless. So in this slide, you could see survivors and their stories. From from their stories, we could see how traumatic it was for people that were affected by this earthquake, and how they described it made it really seem like this earthquake was just very big. They even described it as it felt like a bomb was being exploded right next to them, or it even felt like the whole earth and the whole city of Bhuj was just completely getting split and destroyed. So the tectonic settings that were behind this earthquake, so about 400 kilometers north from Gujarat is a continent to continent convergent boundary between the Eurasian and Indian plate, as you can see right here. So the Indian plate moves northward in respect to the Eurasian plate at a velocity of about 39 millimeters per year. The main faults that are involved in this earthquake are the east trending Kutch mainland Gedi fault, which is this fault right here, and the Ala Bund fault, which is right here. In this picture, you could see all the earthquakes that have occurred in this area. And as you can see, there are a lot of earthquakes that hit these faults, around these faults. And as you can see, this big circle right here is a 2001 Bhuj earthquake that hit. Um, so yeah, Gujarat is located in the Himalayan collision zone where the Indian tectonic plate slides underneath the Eurasian plate, causing active fault lines beneath right here. So the geological setting, so the Indian and Eurasian plates colliding have created the Himalayan mountains, which are known to have the tallest mountains in the world, as you can see in this picture right here. And in this picture, you can see the Indian plate sliding underneath the Eurasian plate, causing the rising Himalayas. So Gujarat itself, the big state, it holds 5 different types of landforms. The major part of Gujarat is the plains of Gujarat. There are plateaus of Gujarat, which are the Saurashtra and Run of Kutch, which are the main plateaus. There are deserts. Ran of Kutch is a very notable one as it is a desert covered in sand. and it has coastal plains, and it's known to have the longest coastline in India with about 1,600 kilometers. There are also rivers in Gujarat. So there's 17 rivers in Gujarat mainland, and 97 in the Kutch district. Narmada, Sabarmati, Mahi, and Tapi are the main rivers. So the city of Bhuj, where the epicenter was, has an average elevation of 110 meters or 360 feet above sea level. There's also an active volcano about 75 kilometers from Bhuj called the Dinodar Hill. On top of that, the Kutch Peninsula is also notable for being an active example of fold and thrust tectonism, which contains several hill ranges marked by these folds from faults propagations. In this region, you can see many different type of rocks from the Mesozoic and Tertiary era. So the main rocks that are present are limestone and sandstone, and you can also find shale and marl, clay, and siltstone in these areas. So before and after the 2001 earthquake, so Gujarat has a hazard of floods and a really high risk of earthquakes. There have been major earthquakes in the years 1819, 1845, 1847, 1848, 1864, 1903, 1938, 1956, and of course 2001, which makes it 9 times in the past 200 years. So we could see that Gujarat has been hit with major earthquakes in the past, and it is a very deadly zone. So also they are also in risk of floods. So in 1997, about 12 districts of Gujarat was fully flooded, and floods also occurred in 2015, 2017, and 2020. You could see how often they can occur and how recent they are to us. Also, after the 2001 earthquake, there were many magnitude 5.5 magnitude aftershocks after the 2001 earthquake. 4 of them occurred within next 4 hours of the main shock, and approximately 500 occurred within the next 2 months after the main shock, which is absurd. So the cause of the 2001 earthquake, in this slide, you could see step by step the cause of the earthquake. So number 1, Gujarat is located in the Himalayan collision zone, like I said earlier, where the Indian plate lies underneath the Eurasian plate, causing active fault lines beneath. So over here, you can see. So Indian plate is pushing northward into the Eurasian plate, as you can see in this picture, which causes a lot of stress on the active fault lines. And it caused an earthquake that occurred on the east-west trending thrust fault at a shallow depth. This earthquake was a 7.7 earthquake that caused a lot of damages, and then which led to 500 aftershocks and eventually led to many years to rebuild the city of Bhuj. So as you can see, this area right here is the area of Gujarat and Bhuj. And over here you can see the fault lines and where the actual earthquake occurred in this area right here. So what did people learn from this earthquake? So what people learned is that so over here in these pictures, you can see they call it bungas. I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong. So they're basically made of mud. And people learned that bungas can withstand earthquakes, and they have been in use for many years now. So the Burj earthquake in particular led to people designing a lot more circular mud houses such as the bungas. Because many bungas were unaffected even with them being close to the epicenter, whereas all the concrete buildings suffered extreme damages. As you could see here, this is the bunga, and then you can see in this picture, all the concrete was just devastated. Um, Also, what geologists learned is within the Kutch district, the most heavily damaged villages were concentrated toward the western edge of the inferred faults. Um, and also that Gujarat is very prone to earthquakes, and it is listed as Zone 5, which means it has the highest risk of suffering earthquakes of intensity. Geologists are aware of this as well as the residents, which forces the Indian government to take actions in Gujarat to have a better response planning and better buildings. This means after the 2001 earthquake, the Gujarat government had started promoting the construction of bungas and encouraged people to stay in proof houses such as the circular mud houses. Um, they also used the base isolation technique at the district hospital of Kutch. Um, as you can see over here, this is the hospital and this is the base technique that they used. They did this because when the big earthquake occurred in 2001, the hospital was completely devastated, meaning they didn't have a proper place to treat people that suffered major injuries from this earthquake. Also, the Bhuj Area Development Authority also initiated one of the biggest renewal programs ever undertaken by the government, and they implemented town planning proposals and made sure they followed safety regulations due to the risk of future disasters. Um, this this earthquake also um, led to the future further development of the National Information Center of Earthquake Engineering and established a comprehensive 4-year national program on earthquake engineering education, which was then carried out by 7 Indian Institutes of Technology and the Indian Institute of Science. Also, India also established building codes and standards for earthquake-resistant constructions. Although that all sounds really nice, there are many challenges to these government's actions. The biggest challenge is the earthquake-prone zones are full of hills and mountains, which make it very difficult and costly to create earthquake-proof structures. As you can see in these pictures, it's very hilly, and it will be very costly for them to create these earthquake-proof structures. Furthermore, there are also not much trained people in earthquake resistant design and building, and there is no formal system of licensing of structural engineering, which kind of makes it harder for people to monitor and implement the safety requirements. Basically, the building codes set by the governments are not very much enforced, which makes it really tough, especially for when the next disaster hits in areas that are very prone to earthquakes. And it just sucks because there are many places in India that the NDMA have stated that won't survive a high magnitude earthquake due to faulty designs. So yeah, although there are challenges, the government and the people need to make sure to follow and implement these safety requirements and the design and the codes, building codes behind all structures to help help the people that are living in these areas that are very earthquake, they're very prone to earthquakes. I'm sorry. Thank you.